Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Friday, August the 29th. And as we like to do once a week, we're chatting with our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. Bill, welcome. It's always an honor to have you.
Well, it's an honor, eh?
Hey,
Uh,
listen,
uh, it's a pleasure to
what
be
else
here.
can I say about a man who used to follow the Brooklyn Dodgers?
Well, I'll take that compliment.
All right, there you
Absolutely.
go. There you go. I mean, you're very high on my list. As a baseball fan and a fan of baseball history, anybody who remembers Ebbets Field and the Brooklyn Dodgers, it's always an honor to have you. But thank you so much for joining us today. And a difficult week to say the least for the country. But if I may just begin with something maybe funny, I don't know. Um, am I the only one who thinks that August, previous presidents in the month of August used to take more vacations than Trump? Because I remember a time, Bill, when President Bush was up in Maine during the month of August, President Reagan was in California, President George W. Bush was here in the month of August. But it seems like with President Trump, he never stops working, Bill.
Well, that's the point. The idea of him taking a vacation is almost hilarious. I mean,
Yes.
compared to some past presidents. What's interesting about August is that it's interesting, and it's interesting because it's dull. This is the last week of August,
That's
and
right.
that is the means that it's the last week of the pre Labor Day political era, and the theory is that in the late weeks of August, all the political people in Washington kind of sleep because nothing is happening anyway,
Right.
and they know what's going to happen after Labor Day, and that means really kind of a political explosion. I'm not so sure about that prediction for this year. First of all, if you go back and look at August, August is actually a month historically that has had a lot of major events, a lot of tragedy. Uh, 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 who wrote the book, The Guns of August?
Yeah, the
Uh,
World War I. Yeah.
World War One, and I can't remember her name. How about that?
Yeah.
Uh, but
I think
but
her first name is Margaret, if I remember. But anyway,
uh,
yeah.
I'll figure it out.
One
Um,
person in the audience I know will know because she's a history teacher. But I
well,
know she listens. So,
okay, we'll have to call her then. But what is striking to me is the attitude of the American people generally. We have an election coming up. It's not the midterm yet. That will be next year, but it's an election that is filled with very interesting races around the
mhm,
country, and really the introduction to this country, for better or worse, and you know what side I'm on, of real Marxism in the
right.
mainstream. I mean, you take a look at the mayor's race in New York. The idea of this city, which is so filled with history and greatness and Americanism. I mean, it's the place where the USS Missouri was built. Always, it used to be called Navy City, and the idea that this city can be run by this clown who is running, who has a long history of making anti-American remarks, anti-Semitic remarks, dumb remarks, which is most of the time. I mean, he is a minor figure in New York politics who has made himself a major figure. Now, I give him one credit, and that is he's a charming man when he wants to be.
Right.
But the idea of him running New York City, which already is in such tremendous trouble, he has not indicated a single idea that he would introduce to stop the deterioration of the city. He doesn't even know, I think, that the deterioration actually exists outside his neighborhoods.
Hmm.
And he has no real experience. And as I said, he has a very, very troubling history. We have never had, to the best of my knowledge, in a large American city, a real Marxist running it,
No, you're
and
right.
and and and
Exactly
it
right.
it, it worries me very, very much. He's in the lead because he got a very early start. The Republican Party is almost non-existent in New York. He is being protected by the left-wing journalists at various newspapers. He is being protected by the fact that the New York state legislature is very, very much to the left. I mean, he does he doesn't bother them at all. I
Right.
mean, we are told that this is the future of the Democratic Party, and you better get used to it.
Well, I
Well,
tell you, if this is the future, that convention in wherever it's going to be, their Democrat convention, that's going to make this convention they had in Minneapolis look tame. Because
oh
did you hear
yes,
about that convention in Minneapolis? The convention starts
oh
out
absolutely,
with this lady who is apparently, I guess, Indian American or Native American, whatever they call it these days, starts out by basically claiming that the land where we're holding the convention, Bill, is stolen land. So my
yes,
question is, why don't you give it back? I mean, if
right. It should, yes,
why
it
don't they
should.
give it back? I mean,
Isn't
if all take
isn't it amazing they haven't volunteered to do that?
right, I mean, take your home. If you're so upset in Minnesota, if you're a Democrat and you're so upset that you stole this land 500 years ago, whenever it was, from these, and I'm not defending what was done to the natives. I mean, a lot of it was awful. But my goodness, I mean, give it back. Say, here are the keys to my house, and
Yes,
you
that's
and
right.
Cherokee, whatever your name is, here it is. Here's the key to my house, and it's all yours. And I'm doing this in the name of some kind of reparation bill.
Yes, the lack of common sense in these discussions is amazing.
Yeah.
I, I think a lot. I think a lot of his support, very frankly, is coming from people in certain neighborhoods in New York who are afraid that they won't have a gardener anymore.
That's
You know,
right. That's right. Or just, I mean, look, I have to laugh because when he had his victory party on election night or primary night, I mean, you couldn't find a black person or a Hispanic. I mean, it was all a bunch of little white kids from I don't know what club they were in. And
yeah,
it's like he got no, I mean, basically the blacks and Hispanics rejected him, which makes me wonder, how do you win an election in New York City? But I guess he might, because I think you said off the air, the opposition is so divided. I mean, if one of those three guys would drop out, I would recommend the Republican to drop out. That would be, I think, a way to do it, and then
yeah.
flip a coin between Adams and Cuomo and see who stays. But
I
I think
think
if there was an opposition, they would beat him, Bill.
if there was an organized opposition, yes. There is really no organized opposition. Uh, uh, because there's the Republican Party is in New York is a joke. The
Right.
others, I think their egos are getting them in the way.
That's right.
Are you going to drop out? I mean,
That's right.
you're going to be known as the dropout candidate.
Right. Right.
Who wants to be told that when these guys have all held big positions? Their egos are enormous. They believe that only they can overtake this crazy man when they are just as crazy.
Right.
And
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 if they're going to elect him, if they keep going the way they're going, I mean, I know we have a little bit of limited time today, so I wanted to just ask you one more question about New York City, and then move on to
sure,
the other topic. But it does look from the polling data that he's going to win. But like you said, it's all divided, the opposition. But I've never seen a poll where he's over 50%, which is usually the important number. He's at
yeah,
41, 42. So there's a lot of opposition to him. It's just divided, I guess.
that's right. Well, the last mayor, De Blasio, won with 18% of the vote, which is the kind of crazy things that happen in New York,
Right.
and it happens because it's most of the power, the political power in New York is in New York City, and New York City is in the legislature even more crazy than it is at home. I mean, so they don't see this as a bad thing. They see this as the coming of a new era, and the coming of who the people really want, who they believe is AOC. That AOC is going to save us in 2028. Well, if we get to 2028, I'm not so sure that the Democratic convention, first of all, will nominate her. It may be a complete wreck, the convention. It may wreck the party, which would be a good thing.
Right.
But they really believe that out in America, there is a yearning for AOC.
Well, they probably believe that, and but they're going to find that they're going to be very disappointed, I think, when when they find out that that's not out there. But again, I'm hoping that one of those three guys drops out, and I think the Republican guy would be the best one because he's not going to get anywhere, and I might as well take a bullet, as they say, for the country or for the city. That's the one. But let me move on to another topic, Bill. A very bad topic: the shooting in Minneapolis at this Catholic school. And a lot of things about this bothered me. Obviously, the shooting itself and the killing of, but the reaction of some of these Democrats saying, well, what are you praying for? I mean, you can't do anything about it. Look, a lot of people pray because that makes them feel better at a time like this, Bill. And these, it wasn't just the mayor of Minneapolis who said that. Somebody on MSNBC made a similar remark. And it's like
Yes.
people of faith, react to that like saying, yeah, we pray because that's how we deal with issues, Bill.
Yes, yes, it is one of the reasons, and indeed, prayer. One of the basic reasons for prayer is serenity. That people can find some quiet, some meaning instead of just sitting there. Prayer has a great effect on people's lives, and I think that these people who say, "Well, you didn't do anything, you didn't give us gun control,
Right.
so what are you praying about?" Well, they're praying because that is their way of in a way clearing their mind to address the issue, which is an exceptionally painful one. But
Right.
to ridicule people who pray, I mean, it's just it's that as political suicide in many parts of the United States, and they feel they can do it because they feel that the moderate wing of the Democratic Party is dead, and that they better get in line with crazies, even though they may not always agree with them.
Well, some of them may want to go back to D-Day 1944 when I think
Yes,
President Roosevelt gave a read a prayer or said a prayer, right,
he did.
on over the radio. So I mean, these people are so disconnected. But the other issue that really bothers me about the incident in Minneapolis is that the person who did this, or the accused person, apparently is a trans, whatever that means. I'm confused sometimes. Similar to what happened in Nashville. And these are people who have, mental issues. And I think we need to have an honest conversation in the country to talk about why people like that should be able to buy guns, and why, and maybe we should treat trans as a mental problem, but you can't do it because the minute you brought this up with the mayor of Minneapolis or even the governor of Minnesota, they immediately start saying, well, we have to be a trans-friendly city. Well, nobody's
Yes.
asking you to be unfriendly.
Yes,
You know,
that's the point. That's
yeah,
the point. Well, their image is that if you're trans friendly, that the voters in their party will see that as this is the kind of guy we want, a guy who wants his city to be trans friendly. How can you vote against him? I mean, he's voting in favor of the future of the Democratic Party, not realizing it may not have a future.
right. Well, I mean, it's just to me. I mean, if I guarantee you, if the guy was a white guy who was on the website the whole day watching movies of Trump, they'd be talking about that and making a big issue about that. And I don't care if people are trans; it doesn't bother me. But we do have to recognize that most of experts say that these people take a lot of depression pills. They're under a lot of treatment, and why a doctor cannot put on somebody's background, look, I put him on depression because he's having gender issues, that could keep him from buying a gun, Bill.
That's right, and that's a very important reason. Many people don't realize, by the way, that the intent of the gun law, it's the background check law. The intent was destroyed by people who presumably thought they were acting the way a modern leftist should act, it was destroyed because you cannot ask in the background check about mental health.
Hmm.
You're not permitted to. It is not part of the background check, and they say it's unfair. It singles people out. They will lose their reputations, and so it was the left really that made it impossible to ask about mental health of an individual in a background check. Now that is horrible. It leads to a lot of deaths without question, and yet they will live with it because in their world, if you ask about mental health, you're putting a scar on that person's history, on that person's future, and we cannot allow it.
Well, and then you take a look at what happened in Nashville, somebody with
Yes.
huge problems. What happened in Minneapolis, even the case here in Uvalde, Texas, Bill, a
Yes.
couple of years ago, the young man here, he had issues like that as well. Not as big, but he had issues like that as well. And what I think is also what we need to have a conversation in the country about, Bill, is that the people in our community need to start thinking about the community. And if you see somebody like that, if you have a friend who has guns in his house or her house, and the person is dealing with all kinds of depression, look, I will call the police if I'm
Yes.
aware of something like that and say, hey, look, it's a confidential call anyway. I will call the police and say, hey, my friend John, he's having some issues and he's under depression, and the guy's got a bunch of guns in his house. I'm concerned about his life or what he could do. Can you please take a look? And I think we need to have more of that, Bill.
Oh, absolutely, we do, and we should figure out a way to protect people from any harm if they answer honestly on some of these questions. Because after all, the purpose of the act that gave us the background checks was to save lives,
Sure.
and not allowing this is going to cost lives.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the whole point. I mean, that we're denying ourselves knowing more information about these people because we're afraid, I guess, of upsetting somebody in the political world. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy. And then you think about those poor little kids in Minneapolis who were shot, or the ones in Nashville, and it's like, at what point do we say, you know what, we got to stop this? And it's not a gun control issue, Bill. I mean, I don't know what law would have stopped the guy from doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just becomes a very sad thing to
Where
watch.
yes, it's like shooting ourselves in the foot
Well, yes,
by
I
by
think you're
by
right.
by practices like that, and immediately as soon as this thing happened, the gun controllers were out saying, this person should not have had a gun. Well, look
Okay,
at the way the gun laws are being interpreted. Of
right.
course, he shouldn't have had a gun. He should have actually probably been in some institution.
That's it. And that's the other part that maybe we can get into at another time when we have more time, because I'm just, I'm thinking about innocent people out there. The other thing too, Bill, one more thing about Minnesota. They supposedly they have the most progressive gun laws in the country. I mean, Minnesota would be the kind of state that would criticize Texas for our gun laws.
Yes, right.
So that, I mean, and here it happens in their town. And so I mean, come on, you guys. And then another thing too, Bill, is that the governor, they couldn't agree to give money to the private schools or the Christian schools or Jewish schools or whatever, but they did find money for other things. And then it's like a two-way hit. You don't give money to protect the schools, and you don't give parents the opportunity to defend their kids because they cannot carry a gun.
That, exactly, exactly. It's look, children. There's an old expression in politics: children don't vote. And I don't think the Democratic Party gives a hoot about children to begin with. The radicals they really are against childhood. If you listen to what
That's right.
they're saying, well, how many people do we need in the world?
Right,
I
right.
mean, we
Exactly.
don't. Why are all these people having children when we really don't need any more children? And they're taking up a lot of the resources in the country. Why do those women think that way?
Right,
And
I know.
you hear that.
Well, you
you
sure
know.
do. And Bill, I know you're limited in time today, so I want to let you let go. But I want to thank you so much for your input today on a very important week. We're going to get into a lot more things sometime next week. We'll schedule another time. But I want to thank you very much for joining us today and for your input. And maybe you should run for mayor of New York, Bill. I'll
Well,
I'll I'll support your campaign.
that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I could not get into the primaries in New York
Well, it's too late now,
for a
right? Yeah.
variety. Well, of course, it's too late now. I don't actually live in New York City. I live in north of New York City, and I don't know if I would be up to running New York City, because my opinion would be that most of the people in the city should probably be deported.
Well, I think you and a lot of people probably think that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
but you make an interesting point though. A lot of people impacted by New York City live in the surrounding areas like you do.
That's
And
right.
that's the other part of the story. But Bill, thank you, and we'll reconnect next week. But thank you so much
Absolutely.
for doing it today on short notice. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Look forward to the next program.
All right, we'll do it again as always. Our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, I wanted to get his thoughts in on this election in New York. He continues to believe that unless one of these guys drops out, that which is probably true, the Mandami is gonna win, which is wouldn't be good for New York City, but that's the way it goes. And regarding this incident in Minneapolis, look, guys, I mean, um, we want to be trans friendly. We want to be also friendly to people who are victims of these crimes, and when we don't treat, we have to have a conversation about trans people in this country because a lot of them do have issues, do have a lot of mental issues, and we're not talking about it because it's somehow they're protected politically, and we should be protecting little children who are going to a mass and who are going to a school. That's who we should be protecting in this country. But anyway, I want to thank our friend Bill. Everybody have a great weekend. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas. My thanks to Junior and Sally for their comments, and we will talk to you the next time. Bye bye, everybody.